Hey everybody, this is Darren Van Dam, and today I want to give you a real quick list of all of the best movies that Amazon Prime has just added here in July 2018. Now to start this list off, I'm just going to kind of fly through some classic movies that most everybody has seen, give you a little bit of information just in case you haven't seen it. Then I'm going to get to a couple of horror movies I recommend you watch this month, and then I'm going to get to a couple of like my top picks, just odder movies that I think less people have seen. I'll spend a little bit more time on those, and then I'll talk about some movies that come out later in July. So right off the bat, American Psycho has just been added to Amazon Prime. This is one of those movies that so many people have seen. A lot of people don't like, a lot of people love. It's really, really polarizing, and it's cool in a lot of different ways. It's really one of Christian Bale's better early performances before he was Batman, but really, really just crazy, wild movie. Jared Leto has a really cool little weird role in it. This movie has some really, really classic scenes, like the business card scene. Out of all the scenes to mention in this movie, that's the one that I kind of gravitate to. But I really like this one a lot, even though it is not a particularly good movie. It's just so likable in so many ways. If you haven't seen it, you might as well try it because you're kind of in a small group if you have not seen this movie. To me, Gran Torino is really one of the better Clint Eastwood directed and acted movies that he's done much later in life, really this century. Now, he is a fantastic director. He's done some great movies. Obviously, he's done great movies, but he's done some really great movies this century so far. But Gran Torino really stands out to me. I felt like this was really just sort of the perfect movie for him to do at the time, at the age that he was. If you haven't seen it, he plays this crotchety old man that doesn't like anybody, and he's got I believe a Vietnamese boy next door. It is Vietnamese because he's a Vietnam vet, and he just, not only does he not want anybody to come around, he certainly doesn't want this little Vietnamese boy to come around, and they end up developing this really kind of strong relationship, and it really is a pretty incredible movie, and it goes into a very, very dark place, but I absolutely love the way this story concluded. Really, really just fantastic little movie. I mentioned Clear and Present Danger last month. They just added Patriot Games this month, which is the other Jack Ryan movie starring Harrison Ford. It is a really, really fantastic political intrigue movie. I like Clear and Present Danger better. It's got like more action in it and stuff. This one has a great action sequence in it, but it's a little bit drier, but still, it's great. I recommend watching both of those in preparation for the Jack Ryan series, which they just released a trailer for it. It's looking really good. I think it's going to be fantastic. Look forward to that in August. A personal favorite of mine from 1985, Tim Burton's first feature film, Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Now, a lot of people, there's a couple of reasons people don't like Pee-wee. One is just that he's annoying. Two is the whole thing in the movie theater he got busted for years back. But if you think he's annoying, it's probably from the kids show, and he is annoying in this movie, but this movie is so funny, and it is not just for kids. And it's not just that it has adult humor in it either. It's got some really clever things paired up against some really childish humor. I think the movie is really fairly brilliant. It's one of those movies that's really fun for me to watch beginning to end. It may seem like an odd choice for me, but this one is a classic in many, many ways, and I'm always amazed at how few people realize that this is actually Tim Burton's first film. Like I said, I'm covering the classics real quickly here. The Graduate just got added. If you never took advantage and you never watched this movie, I highly recommend it. It stars Dustin Hoffman. It's about him getting seduced by an older woman. The funny thing is that that actress and Hoffman were actually only 5 years apart in age, but they aged her a lot for the movie and made him seem much, much younger than he was. So that's a funny little side note. But even if you're not into the subject matter of this one, it's a really nice little slice of time. It's got that Simon and Garfunkel soundtrack. It just has a unique feel to it, but you can see where it has influenced other filmmakers, namely directors like Wes Anderson. If you're a fan of Wes Anderson, this movie is like required viewing. It's definitely the basis for the inspiration of Rushmore, which happens to be one of my favorite Wes Anderson movies. So if you've never watched this classic, now is the perfect time to take advantage of it. And it's really just clever and brilliant, and Charles Bronson's just the man. So if you've never seen it and you're not particularly into Charles Bronson, or you've not really like jumped in, maybe you're a younger viewer of mine and you've never really explored Charles Bronson movies, The Mechanic is a fantastic place to start. If you like content like this, definitely click the subscribe button and be sure to click the little bell icon, because I put videos out like this at least 3 times a week and you will never run out of good movies to watch. Now, I said I was going to cover a couple of horror movies. Jeepers Creepers, the original, just got added to Prime. I really like this one. I thought the sequels were okay, like they were okay in relation to the original, but the original is much more clever and unique unto itself than it would seem. I feel like the title's really kind of silly and it sounds like a dumb movie, but Justin Long is in it. He gives a great performance, and this was an early film for him. This was before he was really a known name, and it's just got this really interesting story where they kind of they find this pit and they keep going back to it. Like the first time I watched this one, and then even revisiting it like maybe a year ago, it just feels different. It's similar to a lot of horror movies in a lot of different ways, but there's so many different elements going on in it, like the big truck that the Jeepers Creepers is driving, and just it just feels special, and I remember that at the time, and it still kind of has that feeling about it. If you maybe pass on this one because it sounds dumb, I highly recommend it, but it is one of those movies that a lot of horror fans really love and appreciate. And then a personal favorite of mine, I've talked about it on the channel before, is Maximum Overdrive. It is a Stephen King movie in 2 ways. It's based on one of his books, and it is the only movie he directed. Now this one feels like a kind of a grindhouse thing. It almost feels, it's funny at times, like it really is, but it's entertaining from beginning to end, because it's not just about 18-wheelers that come to life and keep people trapped in a gas station. Everything comes to life. That's electric knives, it's soda machines, and they all manage to figure out a way to kill somebody. I really, really like this one, but it does have that cool little element to it, that throwback element now, that, there's the green clouds and the rocket launchers, and it's got so many cool things going on in it. Another one that yours truly will definitely be watching before July is out. And then here are some that maybe less people have seen, so I'll spend a little bit more time on these, but Snake Eyes with Nicolas Cage is way better than you would expect it to be. Now, it's about a murder that takes place during a fight night, like a big major fight. So they basically shut down the arena, and Nicolas Cage is essentially a security. Anyway, he's involved with the fight, and then ends up basically becoming part of this investigation. So it's it's basically like an old-fashioned, the lights turn out, somebody's murdered, murder mystery party type of a thing. But like I said, it happens at this fight, and it's got really great elements to it, really good actors all involved in it, and this was Nicolas Cage during his heyday. When you start watching this movie, pay attention to the opening sequence. It is one incredibly long shot that just brings you not just into his character, but into the environment. It helps map out this entire environment of which you're going to spend the entire movie. So really, really fantastic way to open the movie. Pay attention to that, and it'll hook you in, and you'll have a fun time with this one. Switchback is actually a somewhat lesser known movie from 1997. Good little FBI hunting down a serial killer movie. It stars Dennis Quaid and Danny Glover. It's got some great sequences in it. It's a little bit slow-paced, but it feels like it's from the 90s, and the reason I recommend it is just because I know a lot of people missed it. I know a lot of people haven't seen it, and it definitely deserves to get more eyeballs. It's got a really incredible sequence that all takes place on a freight train. If you're liking what you're seeing, I say this all the time, but if you're liking what you're seeing in the clips that I'm showing you, definitely watch this one. It will not disappoint. And then The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension is easily one of the craziest movies currently available on Amazon Prime. It is from 1984, and it is bonkers. It's got a completely star-studded cast, and it is about a guy who is a brain surgeon, samurai, a rock star. He travels through another dimension. So he's got all this stuff. It's crazy. Jeff Goldblum's in it. He's wearing this crazy cowboy costume the entire time. But it is exactly what it sounds like. Oh, and they're fighting these aliens from the 8th dimension, and they're all named John. That's basically all you need to know about it. If you know all these crazy elements and you're interested in this movie, you're going to love this movie. If you hear about all these crazy elements and it sounds like the last thing you'd ever want to see, definitely do not watch this movie, because so far I'm representing this movie very, very well. But if you're into like an 80s just weird, like how did this get made type of a movie, you have to watch The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension. For something more serious, Zodiac, directed by David Fincher, is really one of the best serial killer hunt movies around. I was disappointed by this one when it first came out because I was expecting 7, and while I don't like this one as much as 7, it is much more expertly crafted. It is about the Zodiac killer, so this is a completely true story. It's very, very true to form. It's based on real people. It's an incredible little period piece. It's shot really, really well. If you loved Mindhunter on Netflix, Zodiac is as close as you can get to a movie representation of that. On top of that, it's just a really interesting way to expose yourself to the story of the Zodiac killer, which I don't want to spoil anything else. If you haven't watched it, definitely check out Zodiac on Prime. And then finally, as far as stuff that you can watch as of July 1st, Mulholland Drive, which to me is David Lynch's best movie. Now, I do like his other work. I know some people will dispute that with me. Some of his other work is maybe even more entertaining than Mulholland Drive, but Mulholland Drive delivers some of the most incredible sequences and really one of the most incredible, I don't even want to say twists, I want to say conclusions. This movie's going to mess with your mind. It's going to shock you at times. I will and almost need to say there are elements to this very much like Twin Peaks. If you're a fan of Twin Peaks and you never watch this movie, it's required viewing. You have to watch it. And I don't see it on streaming often, if ever, so definitely jump on it while you can. But there's some very, very cheesy acting in the first half of the movie. And I'm going to ruin a little bit here, but it's done on purpose, and it works based on what happens later in the movie. And it would take me an hour to explain. It almost takes longer to explain this movie than it takes to watch it. Maybe I'll do that one day, but for now, I just recommend watching it. You may not like it when you first watch it, but I'd be willing to bet most of you, after you let it marinate and you realize what the movie did, you're going to be really, really astonished by it. And then for 2 movies I have not seen that are coming out later this month, Snowden drops on July 8th. It's Oliver Stone's latest movie. It is about Edward Snowden. I was very interested in the whole Edward Snowden thing when it all broke down, so I will be interested to see the movie. I've heard mixed reviews on it, but with it being available on Prime, I'm going to check it out. And then on the 24th of July, there's a new release called How to Talk to Girls at Parties. Now, it doesn't sound like something most of you or I would be interested in, but the trailer looks bananas. It's basically about some punk rock guys in the UK that end up going to this weird like art party, and there are people there that maybe are maybe not even quite people. It looks really trippy, really interesting, really kind of fun. So it looks like something very different. It is fairly well reviewed. I almost rented this one, and I'm glad I didn't because it does come out in just a couple of weeks on Prime for Prime users. But that is it for this list. If you're still watching, I would encourage you to check out my podcast channel and my personal channel where I do stuff completely unrelated to movies. Like this week, we made one of the most amazing grilled cheese sandwiches you will ever have. But I will keep making videos like this one right here as long as you keep watching them. But thanks for watching this episode, and you will see me next time.